Load the box. Fourth edition of post Super Bowl week. Valentine's Day has come and passed. I hope that all of the men out there have got their significant others flowers. I hope that the women out there have received those flowers and given a respectable gift to their man, but nothing too grandiose. Us men need to keep our egos down a little bit.
It's probably, in all honesty, it's probably one of those, like, what are they called? Tape measures that says, like, number one dad or number one boyfriend. Like, something like that. Something tiny, something small.
Something like that. You keep it on your desk. Remind you that you are, a small part in a big picture. Anyway, we're going to talk today about, the new romance that is Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. See how I tied that in there? For
It's
Valentine's
beautiful.
Day romance.
It's beautiful.
Just poetry. We're going to talk about defensive players that we think the Vikings need to go get, specifically in free agency and trade. We can talk. We already talked a little bit about the guys they should go get in the draft, and Jordan, if you want to mention any of those guys today, that's fine. But I think we want to focus mainly on: is there anybody in free agency and in the trade market that we think could really benefit this new look Brian Flores Vikings defense? There's a ton out there, especially when you're trying to replace a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the ball. Jordan, anybody that comes to mind for you, and I'll be generous, from draft, free agency, or trades that you say you're pounding the table for today? Kwesi, go get this man. Who is it?
So yes, and I forgot his name like as soon as we started, so I'm trying to find his name. He is the linebacker for the Chargers, I believe. Drew Tranquil is a free agent this season. He is a little bit long in the tooth. I think he's like 28, 29 years old. I don't necessarily think he is going to absolutely lose all of his speed all at once. And also, I think you could sign him to like a 1-2 year deal, similar to what we signed Jordan Hicks for, basically. We could kind of replace the Hicks contract with a Drew Tranquil contract. I think he's going to be a budget guy, a realistic option for the Vikings to go get. And I'm not going to try and get the stats exactly correct. I'm just going to paint a wide picture. He's very good at defending the pass. He gets blown off the ball in the run. That's okay. The Vikings have a linebacker on the roster who is really good against the run, in Brian Asamoah. That's what everybody said about him coming out of college. He'll be fine against the run. He has a nose for the ball. He has to learn how to play coverage better. So I think that he would complement Asamoah well. We'd kind of have the pass defender linebacker. We'd have the run stopping linebacker. They'd both be athletic. They'd both be a little bit on the smaller side, but that's okay in today's NFL. And I think that he's a guy that the Vikings are about to have a big hole at linebacker, I think, after just to clear some cap space. So Drew Tranquil, linebacker from the Chargers, is a name. I think he has experience with Flores as well. I can't remember where they met up, but at some point I think that their paths have crossed. So that's somebody that's on my watch list.
That's a good take. He's also got an elite mustache, so having him in the building would only benefit things. And like you said, free agent. So, as they say, it doesn't cost you anything other than money. Another free agent that I've been excited about would definitely be more expensive, and it would be a long-term investment, is Tremaine Edmunds. The linebacker position is one, just like anything on the defense, with a lot of different moving parts this offseason that you can go many different ways. But the way I look at linebacker to line up next to Brian Asamoah is I want to get somebody who's been there, who has, had the green sticker on the helmet and been the middle linebacker for a while and has really been the guy who, calls plays. Tremaine Edmunds is that guy. And the great thing about him is he is super young. He's 24 years old only, and he's been in the league for 4 years. So he's one of those unicorns where he's got experience and youth and leadership, all the things. He was a defensive captain for the Bills. He's made it far in the postseason. So he's somebody that I think would be an absolute home run to have on your team. He's going to cost more because he's going to be looking for probably his first bigger contract. So it depends on where Minnesota is looking to spend their money, right? like you said, there could be gaping holes at linebacker if we're losing Kendricks and Hicks. And, you had that sort of stability with Kendricks for the last 5 years or so, 6 years. So if you are going to be moving on, it could be a position where you want to get somebody in there where you want them to anchor the defense, somebody who has experience. So I like Edmonds. Another one I'll just throw out there, I don't want to talk about him too much, is Alex Anzalone from Detroit.
Yes.
He ugliest hair in the league, in my opinion, but the guy flies around and plays extremely hard, tons of spirit, tons of energy. He's very familiar with the division. And if we get, the two guys off of Detroit's roster that look the most like Vikings, that could be good for us. So
yeah,
those two guys, I think, in terms of free agency at linebacker that I would want to look at.
Yeah, I think that linebacker is going to be a spot where the Vikings are going to bring in a veteran linebacker, like not even like a veteran, because veteran implies like he's 30 years old. Like they're going to bring in a linebacker that's played in the NFL, because they're not going to just trust the defense to like, hey, our entire second level is being ran by Brian Asamoah and guy TBD in the draft. So they're going to get a veteran in there for sure. Another guy that I'm really a big fan of is, and I don't think the Vikings have a shot at getting him because I think he's going to cost too much. But James Bradberry, I know he just committed a holding in the Super Bowl on Sunday night. He was shut down this year. I wanted the Vikings. I wish they would have went. Yes, he's so good. And so I want the Vikings to. I want them to trust the youth at defensive back, but I don't think you can. I think that you need to go out and you need to sign a guy who you can start week one that has played in the NFL. He knows what he's going up against, and I don't think you want to roll out Andrew Booth and Duke Shelley to be your outside corners if you can potentially get a guy like James Bradberry. So that would require some major cap finagling, but James Bradberry is a name. He's a free agent. He's going to be coveted, but let's go out there. Let's see what we can do.
Somebody that I was thinking of in that same vein, Emmanuel Mosley from San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think you could him and haw about who you'd rather go get, but he's somebody that I would like to have. I mean, everybody from that defense in San Francisco has that dog, as we say. He would be somebody because you have to have, and we've repeated this. Everybody else is repeating this as well. With the Flores defense, you have to have aggressive cornerbacks that are willing to just put their nose in there, and Mosley's that guy. So getting somebody like him, I would definitely be in favor of. Again, though, similar to what you're saying with Bradberry, I think having a veteran is going to be super important. You don't want to just roll out rookies and young guys.
Yeah,
what do you think? Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, because I need to look something up. I need to look up an age of a guy really quick before I start spouting things about him.
Okay. I was going to just ask you if you had any thoughts regarding defensive tackle. That's one we've talked a lot about with things that the Vikings need. You can always draft an edge rusher, but going and getting a defensive tackle, whether in the draft or in free agency or trade, I think has to happen, and it has to be a good one. We can't go get any more of these bargain bin guys. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the position, whether it's trade or free agency.
I truly think, and this is, I hate to be the draft guy all the time, but I really, if you don't want to shop in the bargain bin, then go get guys in the draft. Because that's, I think, your best shot is to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay big money for a defensive tackle like Daron Payne, who I'm not going to go into him just in case you want to discuss him. But I really like those two names that stand out to me where the Vikings are picking. I think they may be available, and I love the way they play. And that's Siake Ika out of Baylor. I think he is just a man-eater. He's a big, true nose tackle who also has a nose for, rushing the passer. But, I mean, he's a nose tackle, so, lower your expectations, okay? He's 325 pounds. And then Kalijah Cansey, I brought him up last week in one of the shows. He's just a guy. He the Aaron Donald comparisons must be made because he played at Pitt and he's just a pass rusher on the inside and he's a big guy and he's quick and he I held this on PFF and I'm stealing it. He lives in the backfield and that's something that for some reason just translates to the NFL. If you are constantly in the backfield on every play in college, you probably will be in the NFL too. So if Kalijah Cansey is there at 23, you're going to learn this about me as we start doing mock drafts and stuff later in the offseason. I'm always down to trade down. Not if Kalijah Cansey's on the board. Nope. He'd take him. Select him and trade up. Use next. I don't care what you have to do. Get him on the Vikings. But a guy that I really like, this isn't necessarily a defensive tackle, but I wanted to, like I said, I needed to look up an age. How about bringing Yannick Ngakoue back? He's a free agent. He's been playing for the Colts. We might be getting rid of Zadarius Smith because he's a little bit too old. We're talking about a 27-year-old pass rusher, just drafted, 7 years ago. Holy cow, in 2016. But I mean, we're talking about a 27-year-old who you could give him like a 4-year deal and really backload the contract. He could play for you for really cheap for a couple of years before you have to pay him down the line. And if the goal is to win Super Bowls now, I think Yannick Ngakoue is a guy I look at heavily to bring back to the Vikings, especially if we can get lucky and Danielle Hunter stays healthy next season. And you have Danielle, the real deal Hunter, and Yannick, the freaking Ngakoue. I mean, my God, what a combination that could be. I sound like the 2017, 2018 version of myself because I was so excited about that pairing. I want to see him back. Bring him back. Get him back in Popo. I loved him.
Yeah, I mean, he was productive before he came to Minnesota. He's been productive after. He played for the Vikings for like 3 days, it felt like.
He led us in sacks that season.
He only played for half of it.
Yeah.
That's not a bad idea. That's a dark horse candidate for sure.
I didn't realize it. I saw the name and I was like, you know what? Low key, I like it. I like the thought of bringing him back.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you mentioned Daron Payne. This is the last thing I'll mention, and then we can get out of here is, there's all these big name free agent defensive tackles that you can go get. There's both the two guys from Philadelphia, Hargrave or Cox. You can even bring Delvin Tomlinson back. I wouldn't hate it as long as you get somebody in the draft, like you said, who can put pressure on the quarterback and live in the backfield. But Daron Payne is who I would want to go get. And this sort of theme, as I was kind of doing the exercise of getting ready for this show, was looking at age is a very important thing. And I think the Vikings have for far too long been old, and getting young needs to happen. And if you go get Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave, those guys are old. They're in their 30s. You're not going to have them around for a long time, and even if they are, they're not going to be productive after a year or two. And so Daron Payne is 26, I believe. He's still a young man. You could have him for 3-4 years and still get peak level performance out of him. I mean, he had 12 sacks last year as a defensive tackle. So again, you might pay a little bit more for him, but you can't live on only cheap guys. You gotta get some playmakers in the building, and so he would be somebody I'd like to see for sure.
Yeah, and the fact that he's 26, like I said with Yannick Ngakoue, who I don't think the Vikings will go get. I don't know if he even wants to come back to Minnesota. He was traded here, and then we traded him away. So who knows about that? But like Daron Payne, he's young enough that you can give him a backloaded deal. You can make it work. Like you can make the money work. In terms of the salary cap, especially if, you're going to do what we suggested with, our game of trade, cut, extend yesterday, which I think we accidentally freed up like $50 million in cap space during that little session. So I think that Daron Payne would be great. I don't hate the idea of, and I'll get us out of here after this. I don't hate the idea of bringing in Fletcher Cox. He's been really good, but if you do that, like you said, you have to go get a defensive tackle in the draft, and there has to be a rotation there. And I do think we're looking for more of a 3-down guy that's causing havoc on every play alongside Danielle Hunter and maybe Yannick Ngakoue. Who knows? So that's been a little defensive. Hey, let's fix it. Let's bring some guys in. Let's get some free agents. I think defensive back is a crucial one because we're going to be blitzing a lot, and I'm really excited about it. That's all from us this week. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stuff, and we'll be bringing you the content next week. But everybody have a safe weekend, and most importantly, let me leave you as always with a skull, y'all.